So I love, anyone who knows me, I love reading. I've been reading this book, Sell Different, which was recommended by one of the guys here, Cosmos. So today's training is just on one little bit of that, and that's all about understanding the fear of change. So when anybody's looking to do anything, even, you best salespeople, I believe, relate heavily to buyers and their own experience. It's why do people fear that change, and you've been able to identify that to be able to help your prospects overcome it. Right, okay, so first part of training for today is around something called paralyzing fear. It's something I got from reading, I'm going to forget the name of the book, but it's got a blue cover, and I will find it out. Selling to Sell Different. I think it's by something Saltz, it's either Jeff or something Saltz. So just finished this, some really good stuff we're going to bring to the business, but one of which was, and the reason I'm looking at my phone is I've got the page saved on here. It's actually really interesting because I can really relate to this change, and I want you guys to think about it as well. When we think about why people are good at selling, it's because they can relate their own experiences to the buyer's experience, and that's a really important element of what you're going through. When people look to make change, there's a thing that went around on LinkedIn probably about 3 or 4 years ago where there was this picture, and it was cartoon drawn, and there was a picture of a man, there's a picture of a person stood on a plinth, and then there's the rest of the team around there, and he asked the question, first question at the top is, who wants change? And every single person's hand goes up. And the second question is, who wants to change? And nobody's got their hand up. So that feeling of change is scary. That feeling of change and doing something different there's got to be enough pain there in order to do something. So I'm going to use a bit of a rough analogy, but if somebody's ill because of whatever reason, you'll tend to find that somebody who has a severe illness and then suddenly their health changes. Suddenly sugar drops intake, suddenly they're not taking takeaways, suddenly they've started going to the gym, suddenly they started doing this, and this, because the pain was enough to change. Now, I think we can all sit around this table, me included, and think, is there something in our life, health-wise, that we need to change, that if someone told me tomorrow that you are going to die 10 years earlier, and may still not change it, if someone said tomorrow, if you do not change, you're going to be dead in 3 months, you would change that immediately. Stop smoking, you're going to die in 9 months. It's taken 6 years off your life already, do you want a further 10? Now that won't change being 22, 25, 30, but if you're 80 and someone tells you that you can either live for the next 10 years or live for the next 20 years, I reckon there might be a little bit of a change there as we look at things. So when we look at that from a client perspective and we think, they've been working with hydrogen struples, Egon Zender, maybe Korn Ferry, albeit don't hear much about them, Russell Reynolds. We want you to change to the unknown entity of raw selection. We've got to really think about why would they make that change. You don't know what raw selection is. We've got to think, if you're speaking with a principal in a firm, a vice president in a firm, and they decide to make a change and use someone else, whose head's on the block when it goes wrong? Who's going to lose their job or feel like they're going to lose their job, lose their career potential, lose their progression, lose their development if it goes wrong? Isn't going to be raw selection, it's going to be them. And that's what they're going to think. We don't make mistakes, we get things right, we do things right about a client, and they don't know that. There's plenty of firms, I've just had a search sent across to me where they gave it to Russell Reynolds beginning of last year, and they've had 0 candidates so far. Beginning of last year. That is absolute dog. This is the second one that I've had sent to me in the last 2 months where Russell Reynolds or Hydrogen Strubles have not sent any profiles across and they've got nowhere. That is what we're dealing with. But who did you use? You used Russell Reynolds. All right. Well, it can't be Russell Reynolds' fault. We've got to make some changes. We're going to have to change the brief. Who did you use raw selection? Who said about using them? I've never heard of them. Why didn't you go to Hydrogen Strubles? I set out this really nice buffet. We made this really nice 3-course meal. And where did you buy all the food from? Oh, we got it from a shop called Ollie's Local. What? You didn't go to Sainsbury's or M&S or anything like that? No, got it from Ollie's Local. Well, it's Ollie's Local's fault. Oh, we got it from Sainsbury's. Oh, right. Oh, well, maybe we haven't cooked it right. Do you see how that mindset changes when it's an unknown entity and somebody's not there? So you've got to think about When you are pitching to someone, the paralyzing fear of making that change is important. It's the same with candidates, and why counter offers can be easier to take than to leave, because the paralyzing fear of change is a real thing, and that happens to a lot of people. So why should somebody use you? That's why you've got to be extra. That's why we've got case study documents that we've got that aren't just, we placed John at Century Partners and that's it. It's a lot more than that. It demonstrates the process, it demonstrates X, Y, Z. That's why we have the YouTube channel. That's why we have the podcast, because it all builds credibility, brand, recognition for them to go, these guys are a real outfit. That's why your LinkedIn profiles are done up like they are, because you could just look like any, Asian bloody call center that's just fake. Right? How many fake bloody connections? I get fake rec-to-rec bloody connections all the time. They're always from Nottingham, they've always worked for Michael Page or Hayes, and then they're always self-employed, and they've always got under 100 connections. So I don't know which firm's creating that, and then getting them blocked and then recreating again, but this is what you're competing against, because all of these things go through. The big banking crisis happened. I can guarantee you every bank that's not a major, prime, top-tier bank has lost customers on the back of it, because companies will have gone, this is too much of a risk. We don't believe that JP Morgan, Chase Bank are going to go under. Whereas the bank that no one's ever, or not as mainstream or as a side bank, like a Silicon Valley Bank, could be at risk. So we're going to make that move. The pain's enough that they're going blue chip, they're not going SME. Okay? So you've got to think about that paralyzing fear of change when you're speaking with clients, and how do you overcome that? And first thing is just recognizing these elements. Why would the prospect change to be your client? Why would they stay with what they've got at the moment? Well, we haven't received a candidate in 3 months. Well, why are you still with them? As well, what the hell are you doing? Same with your car. If your car's breaking down a lot, and you're thinking, I need to make a change here, I need to make a change. At least you know your car. You go and buy a new one. It's not brand new, it's got no warranty. Well, what if that breaks down? I've spent $5,000 buying it, $10,000 buying it, and then I've got to pay for the bloody refurbishments on that as well. There's no guarantee that's going to be safe, so I'm better staying where I am. It doesn't get them anywhere, it keeps them in the same place, it means that their revenue's the same, it means that their AUM's the same, it means that their business is the same. In order to improve, they must make changes. And you've got to convince them that the change to you is better than staying the same.